Hi everybody, happy St. Patrick's Day. I actually have Patrick here with me today. And Patrick is going to be showing us how to make peasant's pie, so I'll let him introduce himself and get us started.
Hello again. My name is Patrick. Yes, I was born on St. Patrick's Day, and I am a forever Savannah Shamrock. What we're going to be doing today is making what's called a peasant's pie. It's a traditional Irish dish that came out of the famine, like a lot of things did in Ireland way back when, which is, I don't know the date. But it's a very simple dish made with ground beef, some vegetables, and mashed potatoes, basically. And so what we're going to do is just mix them up here on the stove, throw it in the oven, and we'll get started here. So first thing I've assembled is a tin frying pan. I have a pound of ground beef. It's just ground beef from the grocery store, like anybody else would get. We have a few onions, and I have a few mixed vegetables here. I have about 2 cups of mixed vegetables. These are frozen. You can get them on the shelf at Kroger or Publix or wherever you feel like going. About a 1/4 cup of chopped onions. I've already done this ahead of time, just for time's sake. And a pound of ground beef. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to get the pan hot. And we're going to put a little bit of oil in the pan.
Medium heat, high heat?
I'm going to start off on high heat just for a minute to get the pan started. And all I want to do is make the onions a little clear. We're not browning them, we're not overcooking them, we're just getting them good and hot so that when I add the ground beef to it, they meld together well. So my stove is probably a lot hotter than yours is at home, so give it a little bit of time. If the oil starts smoking, it's probably a little too hot, so turn it down. Medium heat is probably good. We'll go to medium heat. I'm going to put these in. I like to use my fingers because I think they're the best tool that God gave us. The spatula works well too. Just make sure it's heat resistant. I'm going to saute these onions briefly. Get them clear. That's all I'm looking for, is them to turn from white to clear. A couple of minutes at the most. You can see what I'm doing here. A little bit of oil in the pan. And if you want to get happy, I always like a little happy in the pan, salt and pepper. Always salt and pepper. You can put whatever seasoning you feel like in here. It's not, a peasant's dish probably would not have a lot of seasoning in it because they didn't have a lot to put in there. So vegetables, salt and pepper, ground beef, mashed potatoes, a few onions, and it's good to go. If you wanted to put thyme in there, thyme is good. Salt and pepper, Italian seasonings like oregano, basil, that sort of thing. Probably wouldn't do the basil, but the oregano might be good. You could do that as well. Turn this down just a little bit. We have just a little bit of oil in the pan, not much. The ground beef is going to create some oil, some fat, when I put it in here in just a second. And what we're going to do is just brown the ground beef off. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. Julia Child probably wouldn't have these wrapped up like this, but I did. Okay. I'm going to put a glove on just so I don't get ground beef all over my paws.
Don't worry, we're not trying to be Julia Childs. We're working on our simple 30-minute meals here.
You're doing a simple 30-minute meal that anyone can do in the kitchen. Alright, so we're going to add some of this ground beef to the pan. Now I have a pound here, and I'm putting it, the dish is going to be in a pie shell, like this. This is just a shallow pie shell. We have fancy ones here in our kitchen, but you're probably going to use an aluminum foil pie shell in your home. If you wanted to get a deeper one, that would probably be better if you've got more than, say, 3 or 4 people. This is going to be a dish that 4 people should be able to enjoy. A little bit more ground beef in here. Now, I said this was a pound. I'm probably not going to use quite a pound. Use your judgment on that one. There's no real rules in this. We're going to get this hot. As the beef begins to brown, you're going to use your heat-resistant spatula. And we're going to break this up a little bit. Now, I like a little bit of color on this meat. Brown caramelization is called the Maillard reaction. We won't get into all the science behind this, but the Maillard reaction is what happens when protein's brown in the presence of sugars. But brown tastes better than white or steam. So if you're crowding the pan, you see I don't have a lot in this pan. I've got a little space around it, so it'll brown a little bit better. And I'm just going to kind of leave it alone and let it do its thing. Adjust the temperature on your stove as necessary. I hear it, I smell it, and I see it. And I hear it not sizzling like I want it to, so I turn the heat up some. I don't smell it browning like I want it to, so that's another reason I turn the heat up some. And, you know, I see it as well. Now there's some more steam coming off. Okay, everything's fine. So we're going to give it a minute. We have to get the ground beef really done. Undercooked ground beef is not a good thing. Processed ground beef, when it's chopped, we won't get into all that, but cook it thoroughly. Right. Now, I like to layer this with seasoning. So I'm going to add just a little bit more salt and pepper. I just grabbed a pinch with my 2 fingers like this. Okay? So not a lot. Salt and pepper is always to taste. I'm a bit of a saltaholic, so I can handle more than a lot of people do. So I tend to put more on there than I probably should, which is not a good thing. My doctor keeps telling me to lay out the salt. Easier said than done, ladies. Work in the kitchen. So we're just going to make sure this is sauteed off real well. There's still some bits of red in here. Oops. That's okay. Now I'm breaking this up really nicely.
Looks good.
So yeah, it does look good. It doesn't smell good. Maybe we can eat it later.
I was gonna say, I think I might come back down here for lunch.
That's a great idea. All right, so you see the size of some of these pieces. They're kind of small, and that's what I'm after. Nothing, if you get it too big, you're probably not going to want to put it in your mouth. Alright, so we're getting there. Just going to leave it for a minute. Look at that. This is what culinary school will get you, folks. You do this, or you can come to work in the kitchen and we'll teach you how. Alright, so it's just about there. Another minute or two. It should be finished. So what I'm going to do, once this is finished, I'm going to strain off the little bit of fat that it creates, if it creates any. This ground beef was fairly lean. An 80-20 is usually pretty good. You can get a little bit more fat content at the grocery store if you want. That's up to you. You're just going to have a greasier product at the end. And see, if you can see some of this collecting in the pan, it's really not much. So honestly, I'm probably just going to leave it in there. Okay. Fat is flavor. Too much fat. Yeah, fat is flavor. Too much fat. I always take out some, but maybe not all of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the moment is turn the fire off. And I'm going to set this aside. Now, even though I'm baking this in the oven at 350 degrees for around 20 minutes, I'm going to heat these vegetables up real quick. And that just makes everything cook a little bit quicker. Okay. And this pan is already hot, so I'm going to turn the fire on just slightly, just a little bit. Okay, and warm them. That's all I'm doing. Again, a little salt and pepper, depending on your taste. Okay, you're gonna get them hot. Look at that. I practiced that for a long time. It gets messy sometimes, but
I'm impressed.
what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
I can't do it. Things would be flying all over the place.
It helps if you have a non-stick pan. Cast iron, you can do it in cast iron. I saw Julia Child once make a French omelet in cast iron, and I was forever enraptured by her and cooking. I used to watch her in black and white when I was a kid. I love it. I still watch the reruns. Okay, this is hot enough. Now, the last thing that we have, I failed to mention, you need mashed potatoes. 4 potatoes, 3 to 4 is probably what you need, just medium-sized potatoes. What you're going to do is you're going to peel them. You're going to cut them up into little chunks, about like that, about as big as a quarter, give or take, doesn't matter. Throw them in some boiling water with some salt and boil them for around 10 minutes. And then you're going to mash them like you would any other potato. Season it with whatever you like. Salt and pepper. I like bay leaves in my water. My rule of thumb with the water for boiling potatoes is make it taste like seawater. If you don't season your potatoes in the water, they're not going to taste like they've been seasoned. It's going to be very difficult to season them afterwards. So the trick, make mashed potatoes. Season the water really well. I like a bay leaf or 2, salt. Boil them for about 10 minutes. When they come out, you're simply going to mash them. Put some butter in there, a little bit of milk, or what I like to do is take some of the boiling liquid from the water and reserve it. A cup of it is probably enough. Pour it in a little measuring cup over to the side, dump the rest of the water down the sink, put the cooked potatoes in a pot, put the butter in there, put the little bit of water that you reserved in the pan or the pot or whatever it is, and take your old school potato masher and pound them. Or if you have a fancy mixer like we do over there, throw in the mixer and turn it on 2 and let it go. And then what you're going to do is spread these over the top, and I'll get to that in a minute. So we're going to build this real quick. Okay, you want to come over maybe here?
Sure.
All right.
Time to build the pie?
Time to build the pie. So I'm going to take my vegetables. I'll do this left-handed, so we're going to put them in the bottom of the dish. Just like so. Straighten them all out. We don't want any waste. I'm going to very much of not seeing that in the kitchen here. Don't waste anything, guys.
I like it.
And then spread them out evenly over the bottom. And then I'm going to take my cooked ground beef. We're going to put this, spread this over as well. Now, if you've made too much, that's fine. Just put it aside. Don't use it all. Use your judgment. If you have a deep pie dish, you're going to use more. If you have a shallow pie dish, you're going to use a little less. It depends on how much you want to make. You have to be creative in the kitchen, and you have to be fearless. Julia Childs used to say that to me all the time. You have to be fearless. So don't worry about it. It's just food. Cooking for yourself. You're your own critic. Nobody's going to judge you. Now, I have already prepared my mashed potatoes. So
I guess that would be an easy thing to do while you're cooking the ground beef is boil your potatoes.
it would.
Time saving.
That's a great time saver. If time is not really an issue with you, you can boil them after the fact. You can boil them while you're cooking this. What I did was I prepared these yesterday just for the demo. These are just mashed potatoes. All they are. And they're going to be a little easier to spread when they're hot. So once you take them out of your mixer and you mash them, you've seasoned them, and they're ready to go, all you're going to do is spread them over the top of your ground beef mixture. Now, it looks a little dry. And maybe it is. That's a matter of opinion. I'm going to put just a little bit of water. You could use stock. If you have some at home, put just a little bit of water in this, because the ground beef has a little bit of juice in it, and the vegetables are going to give off a little bit of moisture on their own, so you don't want a whole lot. Otherwise, you're going to get a very soggy pie. Now, all I'm going to do with this, I've turned it out into a pie tin with plastic wrap underneath it, so I can just simply fold it onto the top. We'll see how this goes.
That was smart. Oh, look at that.
So now, I'm just going to take my little paws that God gave me, I'm going to press it into the pie.
It's so pretty.
Just like you would a pie dough if you were baking a cherry pie or something like that. And my fingers have made a fun little design. Voila.
Oh, nice.
Now, last thing that I'm going to do, well, the next glass. I have an egg wash prepared. This is not, you don't have to do this. It's just going to make your pie look a little prettier. And I like pretty when I serve it. I think you taste with your eyes long before you do with your mouth. And so if you look at it and it's like, I don't know if I want to eat that or not, you probably won't want to. So I'm going to put an egg wash on it, which this is just one egg and a few tablespoons of milk. And I beat them together. That's all it is. And then I'm simply going to brush it on the top like I was
an artist.
Okay. And what that's going to do, you ready for this? It's going to make the top brown. Otherwise, you might have boring old white potatoes up there.
It's going to look golden brown now.
Golden brown. We hope.
I trust you.
Well, good. Trust is a good thing. And here we are. That was easy. I don't think it took us 30 minutes to do that, but I already had the potatoes prepared. So now the last thing I'm going to do, well, the next last thing I'm going to do is put it in the oven, because then we're going to eat it, right? So into the oven. Kate, you want to come with me?
Yeah.
To the oven? Here we go. Actually, we're going this way.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm following you.
Now, we have a very fancy oven here. You probably have one at home. It looks like mine that says Frigidaire on it or something. 350 degrees for around 20 minutes, 25. If you have a thermometer at home, check the internal temperature to be sure it's 165 degrees at least, give or take. Everything in here is cooked already, so it's not really a problem. You just want it good and hot so that you're going to eat it. But I'm going to do 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. Into the oven, slam the door. That's not the button I want to press. That is.
Ooh, that is a fancy oven.
It is. Well, these things cost a lot. And there you go. Simple, easy, 30-minute meal. Peasant's pie, ground beef, some mixed vegetables, saute some onions, put some garlic in there if you want, salt and pepper, season it, some mashed potatoes, and you're all set. Hi, and we're back. All right, about 20 minutes has passed. And our pie is looking delicious. So we're going to take it out of the oven here. Now you probably don't have these at home, but I do. I burn myself 14 times a day. Voila, look at that.
It's a beauty.
Julia Child would be proud.
Yes.
She would. So it's St. Patrick. Well, let's go over here and have a look. Now, I told you guys internal temperature of 165 degrees, but if you don't have a thermometer at home, it'll boil over, as you can see back here, and that tells you that it probably reached the boiling point inside, and leaking over is a good indication that it got hot enough. But if you have a thermometer and you want to use it, 180 degrees, that's more than sufficient. Okay, so what we're going to do, have some.
We're plating it?
Yeah. Let me get a plate. I'll be right back.
In the meantime, let's just stare at this beauty.
Okay, we're back. So, plates, forks.
Oh, we got two? This means I get one too?
Yes, it does. I'm not going to be the only guinea pig for this. All right, so I'm just going to scoop out a little bit here.
Yum. So colorful.
We're going to plate it up just like that. Then, over here,
Let's get
a little bit
close
more.
up of that.
Look at that.
Delicious.
See, and you've got layers of ground beef, veggies, and mashed potatoes on top. It should be absolutely wonderful. I should let you have your first bite.
And delicious. Thank you.
I feed you, but you have a mask on.
Yeah, well, That's all right.
So you'll just have to try them.
I'll try
Thank
it
you
after.
again. And again, I'm Patrick. I'm the sous chef here at Presbyterian Village. Come by anytime, and thanks. And bon appetit.
Bon appetit.